pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion? None? All happy with it? Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is minutes for approval, 6/24/2019.
Make a motion the minutes be approved as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Discussion?
Well, I found one typo. Page 2, third paragraph, between strange and vehicles, there should be a space and there's an equal sign.
Oh, yes.
Best I could do. Liza, super job, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, on just past the middle of that same second page, under the discussion of the appointment of Ms. Curry to the Planning Commission. It says, Mr. Holsworth made a motion to appoint Janet Curry to the Planning Commission for a term of 3 years expiring, et cetera. Mr. Mark withdrew his second. I seconded that motion.
Okay.
And then subsequently, Mr. Holsworth withdrew his motion and tabled that discussion until the next regularly scheduled meeting. That's the point at which I withdrew my
Sure.
second.
All set, Eliza?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Jack? I have one. Last page. Let's see. Oh, okay. Just before adjourn, Mr. Leamy voted against this motion that had to do with a new 3-year contract for the town manager. The remaining 3 present board members voted in favor. I stated that the reason I did that was because I felt that the increase in compensation was excessive. That's all. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Corrections? Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Citizen comments. Yes, Joe.
Joe Bruno. Some time ago, I think it was around 2008, the town had presented this clock to Ellen Huntley. Ellen Huntley's health has failed, and she sold her house, and Bill Mulholland ended up with it. And we had discussed it, and I thought that it would be appropriate that if I would ask the board to consider putting this someplace in the town office, because I think it says a lot for Ellen. She served 15 years here, and just something that would go down in history, where if we left it where it was, it would disappear and no one would know. So I would respectfully ask the board to consider putting this in the treasurer's office.
I'll make that motion.
Motion? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's done, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next,
Yes,
David, want to identify yourself for Eliza?
David Clark. I just purchased a Bristol house. My question is concerning the docks, the slips. And I had a meeting this morning with Mike, right? About what we need to do as far as being able to access certain slips, because the one particular slip that I'm allotted, it's overgrown and there's no access to it. And I understand that there's a environmental problem when you're trying to remove trees. There's a tree that's literally about to fall on wherever my boat would be. And then also there are some people that are not in their correct spot. And last year when I purchased, I extensively looked at it, talked to everyone that was in that particular area, found their phone numbers, talked to them, you know, so that's kind of my concern is what is it that I need to do to be able to access this slip? And if it's unavailable as far as because of the growth, I don't feel I should be paying the assessment on it.
Mike?
I can't.
Got it, David?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Mike?
I talked to David today, and he shared a lot of information with me that I didn't know, and probably neither would the board, because things happen under the cover of darkness, and people start squatting on other people's property and using their docks, and that kind of happened in the area where David's dock is. But one of the things that I spoke to him today about was the Agency of Natural Resources governs the problem that he's facing there, and so we have an option to either he grieves it, the assessment itself, but because they're deeded, the issue is if nothing can be done there, how does a property owner that wants to use a slip to put their boat in get access to that? Because they're deeded. It's not as simple as just changing a number on a roster. So there's a challenge there for the town. The other thing is, the question is, they're deeded the dock space, but we own the property. So who's responsible to go through the process of requesting the property to be cleared? I mean, and I'm not asking that in a negative way. I'm asking really is, if David were to go to the Agency of Natural Resources, are they going to talk to him because it's not his property, it's the town's property? That's really the crux. I don't have a problem doing the work, and I don't think David has a problem doing the work if it falls on his shoulders, but answering the question of who is ultimately responsible needs to be answered. And I put a call into Laura at A&R, and she's on vacation until Monday. So I won't get an answer back from her until she gets back from vacation.
Joe?
I don't profess to know much at all about these matters, but it seems to me that if the town is collecting taxes on the assumption that the landowner has access, that the town has an obligation to provide access, if that means clearing a path or whatever it is. So I guess I would be supportive of the managers pursuing this with A&R with that in mind, that if we have the authority to do so, we might be inclined to do so.
Can I ask a question? Are we talking about something that's on the shore, which is our property, or are we talking about something that's in the water, which the state of Vermont will tell you very quickly they own? What are we talking about?
Sounds like both. I've taken photographs.
I gave him your photograph, David, of one that the tree is showing there.
Yeah.
It appears that it's actually on on Earth, not in the water. Last year, I think we dealt with this last year. I went up there with Paul Egan, and there's a lot of those slips that there's issues in the water, but then there's other ones that it's on shore, and the stuff that's in the water, like overgrown with cattails or silt, that's a bigger nut to crack. But as far as the stuff that's on the shore, I've spoken to Laura last year about it, and they have this little mathematical formula that if you remove something, you have to replace it with something. So I just need to get a hold of Laura, David, and just figure out what she says about it.
How deep is that there?
It's not.
Is there an issue about clearance or not really?
Not
clearance,
probably
but-
right there.
Oh,
But,
okay.
Okay, so you're gonna continue
So it's really just
to
the
work
tree.
on it, investigate it, Mike?
I will.
Well, how about, isn't the first thing that could be done short-term is to once again, as was done a number of years ago, take a survey of the boats that are there to make sure they are there legitimately, or not in the days of the Old West squatters?
I've already discussed this with the constable and one of our police officers today. We're getting up there, and not only is it boats using an incorrect dock, but they're leaving trailers up there, and we pay to get it mowed, and they can't mow the place because trailers, they can mow it, but they're mowing around all these trailers. So it's an issue that rears its ugly head every year, but it was brought to my attention now that there's boats that are not using the correct slips. Well, matter of fact, I think David talked to somebody that they don't even own property here. They're just pull in there and start using someone's dock.
Well, that's what I
So,
meant. That's the kind of thing I meant.
Boat trailers have a plate on them, right?
yeah, they ran the registrations last year and I was able to clear them out. I just got to do it again this year.
And boats have a license number on them too.
Yeah. So we were able to track this stuff
Is there
down.
any way that there, you know, I hate to go here, but can there be a penalty for that if you leave your trailer? Is there a fine that could be assessed?
Well, we don't really have anything enforceable at this point that, on this property saying that they can't leave their trailers there, because there are people that have a dock space. So instead of taking their trailer back to their own property, they're leaving it on town property. So last year I was able to clear them all out except for one, and we took the other one and brought it to the dump and used it for scrap because we couldn't find any registration or VIN or anything on it, so.
So I guess, David, Mike will keep working on this, see if we can resolve the issue. Okay?
And I just wanted to add, right next to my slip is a vacant slip, and I was told that it was possibly owned by the town, and it could have been an emergency access at one point, or just a public entrance, but it is completely vacant. Nobody owns it. So-
Number 24, correct?
I can shed a little light on this. I was in town on the board when we had that survey by Purcell, and there's not enough boat slips to give everyone that has a piece of property on the heights or the meadows a boat slip, which is in their deed. But every owner has to sign a dock agreement, and we have in the past assigned dock spaces to other people if they're not using them. Because if they don't have a dock agreement with the town, then they don't have a dock slip. Even though it says on their deed they're entitled to one, they have to sign that dock agreement.
And we did send those out, and it's been, I think that's what drew David in. And we haven't got, I don't know the exact number, but I'll bet you we haven't received probably 50% of them back yet. So.
Dick?
Quick question. You said that the dock spaces are deeded. Does that mean that on your deed, for instance, it gives you a number? It tells
Yes.
you you have,
Yes,
it's on the deed?
yes, well, yes, in the paperwork, yeah.
And some of these docks
I guess
deeds
what I'm saying-
have the right to put a trailer on it too. I haven't found one. I was told that they do, but I haven't come across one that says it yet.
I guess my question was if it's not actually in the deed, it's other paperwork, then maybe we have some discretion there and we can kind of move things around to make it fit better. Because if there's, 83 spots and 75 people that want to use them, then that, gives you a little more latitude.
Okay. Yes, sir, any other citizens concerned? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Cornell Dawson, 14 West Crystal Haven, here in Valmocene. And I'd like to bring up a point for discussion and information regarding the common area. As it turns out, it's a different aspect of it. Our particular property abuts the common area, and the town a few years ago put in a culvert there to allow drainage from the other properties and up the hill. And normally in the spring it's wet and the common area has wet areas, but it dries out and it's not a problem. Well, this spring and this summer it has been a major problem. The drainage area has really never dried out. The problem with it that I see is it's a nice drainage area till it gets to the wooded area. Once it gets to the wooded area, at the north side of the common property, that's wooded, and it just disperses. It doesn't get to the lake. But what happens, that dispersed water runs into the common property that is maintained, and where we'd like to play volleyball or whatever. And there's a section in that particular part of the common area that has been wet all the time, and it still has standing water in it now. So I'd like to have the board and the town manager start to look at the drainage issues here and see if we can't, what to me makes sense is extend that culvert to the lake so that it doesn't end up flooding the common area. Now, I met with Mike this afternoon. He was very, very helpful, and I may be involved in the meeting that the lady from
Laura.
Vermont is coming to. So one more problem, one more opportunity for the select board to help us out and make life better for us in the common area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to VLCT presentation. Should I introduce you folks, or you want to introduce yourselves?
I think we're going to introduce ourselves as we go along, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Good evening. Thank you for asking us to come tonight. I hope you all had a great, happy, safe 4th of July. We always welcome the opportunity to get in front of the select board and talk about our programs. And I understand that one of the reasons we're here tonight is that Fairhaven, your neighbor, had switched from passive to another insurance company, and that they had said they saved some money on their insurance, and so you were maybe looking at some of those options. So I just wanted you to know that you're not in the same, you aren't in the same situation that Fairhaven was. They had developed some claims on the workers' comp side, and so everyone has what's called a workers' comp experience mod, and it's based on your claims over a 3-year period. So their mod had gone up to a 1, everybody kind of is neutral at 1, and then claims go up from there. So they had gone to a 1.5. And so because we're a self-insurance pool, we don't report to this National Council of Compensation Insurance that insurance companies do. And that's where they have your mod and what it is. So they developed this mod with us, and the insurance company decided that they weren't going to use their mod, that they were going to start them at 1. So the insurance company was already 50% lower rate kind of out of the gate is on the workers' comp side. So I just wanted to explain that situation. You have I think it's a 1.1 mod, so you're in good shape as far as claims go for workers' comp. So there's some differences. As far as the 2020 renewal that will come up in January, we run on a calendar year. Excuse me. I think we'll be competitive. We have changed some of our underwriting rating structure, and so I think you'll see a difference this year. We also give back money if there's surplus funds, it doesn't go to shareholders, it goes back to the members, which are you. And we do that with keeping rates stable and giving money back in contribution credits. So Castleton is actually a charter member of what we call passive. It's Property and Casualty Intermunicipal Fund. So it dates back to 1987, and you were one of the original members, which thank you for that, and thank you for your continued support of this program. We are like, I liken us to a co-op or a credit union where the members own it, and you own the program. We are run by a board of directors that's made up of municipal officials. And so that's when I say that if there's surplus funds, it goes back to the members. Our competitors sometimes will say that we're a one-size-fits-all and that they can tailor their coverage to fit your needs and maybe give you a better price that way. But we look at it like we're not a one-size-fits-all. We only insure municipal entities. We don't insure the grocery store down the road or the auto dealership. So what we do is municipalities, and it may be what you would say, we don't give you coverages that you don't need, but we have coverage that fits your needs. So over the years, we've become aware of trends in claims and where they're coming from. So we found that law enforcement liability and employment practices liability are some of the places, they're the new leaders in litigation, that's where the claims are coming. So because of that, we have hired Trevor Whipple, and Jill Muhr is with us. Trevor he works with law enforcement, and Jill focuses on human resources. And so they're going to talk about the programs that we put in place to deal with those issues that, that hopefully will not, will provide for a safer workplace and a safer community and not end up in costly claims. So we found that over the last 27 years, nothing can hurt a town's financial health more quickly than a claim that's not covered. So that's why we use your experience and we look at ways to maybe enhance coverage if it's necessary. We had a member recently that had a large claim. It was about $9 million, and we do offer you $10 million in liability limits. So that would have hurt their finances had they not had that type of limits. So the other thing I just wanted to point out is Wade Masure is with us tonight. He's your loss control consultant, and he's going to talk a bit about the programs and services that he provides for Castleton. So I'm going to turn it over to these guys, and at the end, if you have questions.
I'll ask you if we have questions, right? I'm going to stand up. Good evening. So I know some of the faces here. I've been around Castleton now working with the Passive Trust as your loss control consultant for, I don't know, the better part of 16 years roughly. Worked with many previous managers, right up through now with your newer manager here. So basically my role has been over the years to pretty much anything I can do with loss control efforts to help the town keep their employees safe, keep their buildings safe, so that at the end of the day everybody goes home. By doing that, we keep costs down, we keep claims out of the system, and more importantly, ultimately, everybody's working safe and coming to work and going home at the end of the day. So I've done actually a lot of work here over the last several years, and more recently in the last 2 or 3 years. I forget how long you've been here now, a couple of years?
2, yeah.
Yeah. So with the efforts of the current manager and even the previous managers, some of the ones, I've been asked to do a lot of things here over the years, which is good. That's what we encourage, that participation through our programs. By doing so, it gets me into your buildings, it gets me interacting with in better ways to help you keep claims down, keep you somewhat protected from some of the VOSHA things that are out there that really are not a bad thing, but we want part of our efforts is to help put you guys in a good position for when you do get VOSHA inspections. We've also more recently, I think it was kind of tail end of last year and early this year, we worked with the town on the commercial motor vehicle aspects for your municipal drivers who have CDLs. The last I knew that was coming along pretty well, or probably is done
Done now.
at this point, which is a good thing. So that's another service that we provide, and not only do we do that, but that, like anything that we do, things are always changing, and it's hard to keep up with things at times. That's part of our job. So when changes do come along, we make sure that things are updated, that policies are updated in reference to the commercial motor vehicle things and things of that nature. The other thing I've done here quite a lot of at the request, well, part of because of what we do, plus in this particular case, Castleton has asked for our services and help, is a number of what we call hazard ID surveys, where we do walkthroughs, and we don't call them inspections because we end up making recommendations based on best practices for all your town facilities. And I think it's fair to say that with the manager's help the last couple of years here, we've done a lot. He's done a lot, the town's done a lot with all the facilities, including last year where we did a number of best practice upgrades at up by the lake.
The beach.
The beach area where all the play equipment is and things of that nature that, like a lot of things that we do kind of look like things that slip through the cracks here and there, which is common, but I think now we're in a much better place and things move forward quite a bit there. So that's, and we've done that throughout all the facilities. I know we've done the highway garage a couple times in recent years. As a result of some of our surveys that I've done, they've been able to use the VLCT Passive Safety Grant Program to help offset the cost of some of the recommendations that we've made. I know that's been fairly active here in recent years, the use of that program.
We actually maxed it out, so.
Maxed it out.
Yeah, and this year we're maxing it out again, so.
Again, yeah, so that's a good, that's good news. So yeah, that's just, the other thing, a little bit about trainings, we do provide trainings upon request for our members. We try to focus them trainings on what the members' needs are, or focus the training on claim trends that you may or may not be having. I know over the years, I've pretty much been the one here to keep the highway crew and the wastewater guys and whatnot up to speed on their flagger certification, so that when they're out there, they're, at least have the best practices in place for being out in the public roadway, and not only that, but being compliant with the regulations and the rules that are required for them to be out there to do that. Just a little bit more on claims so far, just FYI, so far, knock on wood, this year's been, well, actually, the last handful of years have been good for Castleton. Claims have been coming down, and this year, in 2019, so far, unless something's changed in the last week, you're at 0. There's been no claims this year, so that's a good thing. That's pretty much all I have. I guess I kind of hit all my highlights here. There are a couple things where you still kind of have lingering that we were going to do, and I hope to do here. So, it's kind of like a resource. And for the whole town, all the various departments, is what I do. And like I said, Castleton has been fairly active, pretty active member with using at least the services that I provide that I'm familiar with. So, and that's a good thing. We encourage that. Any questions of me or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Are these services free?
They are.
No.
Yeah, for example, the commercial motor vehicle policy that you're required to have through federal motor carrier, when the town hit a little bit of a bump in the road with that, in the last 12 months or so, we'd already been kind of talking about it and kind of working to get that in place, and then obviously that, that happened, and we continued to work with the town to get that up and running, and get everybody, all your ducks in a row. And for example, my point is, it's part of what we do. I remember meeting with Karen two or three times anyway, and working with her on that, as well as Joe Potter prior to that. So, but that's just one. Yeah, there's no fee.
I'd like to make a comment to the board is, I met Wade, I think it was in the city, and we had a firefighter injured on an aerial device, and I get to Castleton and we had a firefighter injured on an aerial device, and for the same problems as not trained on that. So this year, we were able to use the passive scholarship to get a class on the aerial. It was free. It was over $2,000 that we trained the members on that device. So now we have something in place for a training program, but they can operate safer on that piece of equipment than they could have before. And then the building inspections, I think, Wade, every time I've called you, you're pretty much Johnny on the spot. He's here within days of asking him, and we've used the passive grant, so it's a 50% match, up to, it's $10,000, but 50% of that is, we don't have to pay. And we've used that to get safety equipment that would have cost otherwise out of our operating budget. So in the last 2 years, we basically saved $10,000 on that stuff. So it's a great program, and I thank you for your prompt responses and helping us out.
And these are things we do with all of our members. And quite honestly, we respond to all our members' requests, in a timely fashion, or try to anyway. And so that's good. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Joe.
So my name is Jill Muhr, and I'm the Human Resources Consultant. I've been in the field for about 25 years and been doing consulting for VLCT for about the past, I don't know if it's about 3.5 or 4. Had previously worked in HR Whipple in prior life. And so I'm available, you know, towns are too small, towns like Castleton, to have a dedicated HR professional. So I'm your dedicated HR professional. So when you hear about a new law on the radio, like, what, Vermont's making another law that has to do with our employees, you know, you don't understand it, pick up the phone and call me about it, because I can help you comply with those laws. Also, so I get hundreds and hundreds of questions every year. Also, one thing that your town manager has availed himself of is an HR audit. So I can come in and look at all your programs and your policy, your personnel policy, check out job descriptions, where things are filed, what your procedures are, and make recommendations. And we can work together, the way Wade has done, on chipping away at those recommendations. I also, so that's a free service. Everything I do is included. And personnel policies, it's an area, even if you as a select board are looking at your personnel policy annually, there's probably still some law that's snuck through, and we have a model that we share with you, and I can also work with you on different areas. I find things that towns are sometimes mistakenly doing that they're not supposed to be, or vice versa, that they should be and are not. So I can do those comments, make those comments and recommendations. Same with job descriptions. I can help when you're doing a new hire. I can go over lawful interview questions, or maybe some insightful interview questions that you might not have thought of, depending on the position. So we have online information, and right now I'm working on making our online information more robust. It's somewhat minimalist at this point, and I'm working with our communications staff to get that to be even more robust. But shoot me an email or pick up the phone. The other thing that I do, which is really, really valuable to members, and I know Castleton has availed itself a little bit, is and it's in this booklet, kind of near the center, it's the EPL referral program. And what Pam mentioned is EPL stands for Employment Practices Liability. So if you were to be sued by an employee or a former employee for some sort of infraction, imagined or otherwise, we can help you with that. Or if you are just encountering any sort of situation or confusion about a complicated return to work situation, somebody is out and you're not sure if they can come back to work safely, does the ADA apply? A lot of the laws, federal and state, sort of blend together and overlap and get very confusing on a situational basis. So if you call me and we talk about the situation, I can refer you to one of the 5 attorneys with whom we contract. They're around the state, and they are specialists in employment law, because it can be a very confusing arena. And they can hold your hands through the situation, up to 3 hours, sometimes a little bit more, for free. We go ahead and approve it if it's going to be a little bit more than 3 hours, and you get to avail yourself of experts, because not everybody can be. And if you were to still be sued by an employee or a former employee, it would be, and you followed the attorney's advice, your $2,500 deductible in the EPL area would be waived. So it's a win-win. We want you to use that program when there are confusing employment issues that you're dealing with, FMLA, VPFLA, all the initials that blend together in terms of all the laws that employers must abide by. And so we strongly, strongly encourage it. So the other thing I can do is trainings as well. I can do HR 101. I can do employment law 101 for managers. I can help with performance management and lawful interview questions, those types of trainings. So that's a breathless way of telling you very quickly what I do in a complex arena. But everything's situational, so we'll talk about it. So just contact me.
Board members have any questions on this?
No.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
next.
I'll be next, and I'll be brief.
You're up.
It's enjoyable to be before a board where I'm not defending a budget or begging for a budget or addressing a personnel issue. Trevor Whipple, recently retired police chief from here in Vermont. I retired in September from 12 years in South Burlington, 23 in Barry. So was the chief of police in the city of Barry prior to South Carolina. And so the league, as Pam said, approached me and said we were seeing increasing claims, increasing potential liability, specifically in the law enforcement side of the house, which is very particular. And I venture to guess you all watch the news on a fairly regular basis. You see that it's an ever-changing world with a lot of potential hazards out there that we're seeing. So the league brought me on, created my position, which is brand new, entitled Law Enforcement Consultant. I'm a full-time employee with the league, just like everyone else that's spoken to you, available to you folks, to the manager, to Chief Mantello, for anything police, anything law enforcement. We have, and I've spoken with Chief Mantello as soon as throughout my whole career, as long as he's been here, and prior to that at the police academy. We have a library of 70 model current best practice police policies. I know that Chief Mantello is using many of those, so I realized I was chief of police in the second largest police department in the state of Vermont. I still didn't have time to write policy when I wanted to, and I realized certainly in smaller communities where you have a chief like Peter who's wearing 20 different hats, that many times you don't have time to either notice there's been a change, there's not a good information stream coming out of the State House or out of the Attorney General's office when there's a change in policy or law. That's my job now, is to monitor for that and to share that with the chiefs. We also have an online training system. I know that most chiefs are using that. Again, no additional cost to you, where police officers or all town employees can sign on and take different modules that will help them to update their knowledge or their practices and many things involving risk. I'm available to travel out, as everyone else is. I can either consult on the phone or come to a community. Since I've started, I've helped with questions about hiring as well, specific to law enforcement. I've sat down on promotional exam panels. I'm going tomorrow to spend the day in Springfield and work with them on identifying a new police chief. So really want to be available to you, particularly your chief, but anybody in town government, to help to maintain your costs. We want to reduce and mitigate claims. So selfishly, as a lifelong cop, the thing that makes that most palatable to me is that if we're keeping your claims down, we're not seeing workers' compensation, we're not seeing your cops get sued, that means cops aren't getting in trouble, they're not getting hurt, and that's what's important to me. Also working to identify a bit more robust kind of mental wellness system here in Vermont. We're reading across the nation that PTSD, it's now a presumptive covered workplace injury. So if you were to have a police officer who were to be diagnosed with PTSD, that could be potentially a pretty substantial workers' compensation claim. So what we want to do is to work to make that not happen, to prevent that by having better systems in place much further upstream. So working with, you'll hear a bit from Larry about EAP. We also work to identify a special program, EAP first, specifically for cops, firefighters, and EMTs. So I think with that, I will leave it to you folks to respect your time, but thank you for making time to hear from us this evening.
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen? Save the best for last.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit. Some of my thunder's been taken away by the passive grant, the passive scholarship program. So you have taken advantage of it for the past at least 2 years. You've just about maxed out the grant program on different equipment that you purchased through town. So it is a 50-50 match up to $10,000. So you about hit the 5,000, just shy of it by $100, I would say, each year. And the scholarship, you took advantage of that this year, and that apparatus training was just shy of the $2,500 that you can take advantage of. So that's great. You're aware of the programs, which I think is outstanding, and you're using that. That's basically free money. So again, you guys kind of took that thunder away, but I'll again remind you that it is there, it is available, and I'm glad you're utilizing it. Then the other area I wanted to talk a little bit about is the EAP program, the Employees Assistance Program. So that's not only just available to your employees, it's available to supervisors, staff, employee members, family members, so on. But that's a program that we also pay for you on your behalf, so it's not a service that you're paying for. That's paid for by the passive program. So definitely utilize that service, and as Trevor said, there's EAP First, which is kind of a section off EAP, but that's available for police officers and first responders. So we certainly want to try to prevent those claims instead of so the EAP and the EAP First program. The CDL drug and alcohol program, I think you have 8 drivers in there. Again, we pay for that on their behalf. I know Wade talked a little bit about that program, but that's also paid for by Massey. And then and I think Pam mentioned the flood coverage, but if she didn't, I do believe you might have some property in the flood zone. A lot of times what you might find in the commercial market is they're going to exclude anything that's in the flood zone, so they're not going to cover it. Or if they do, your deductible is probably going to be between $20,000 and $50,000. And just so you're familiar with the passive program, all your property is covered, whether it's in the flood zone or not, and it's $1,000 deductible. So a big difference between us and maybe what you might find in the commercial market, specifically for a property that's in the flood zone. Sometimes they exclude it, and you may have to go to the market and try to find coverage for those properties, and it could potentially be costly or very difficult. But I just wanted to bring that up. In your packet is pretty much kind of a wrap up of everything we talked about. We talked about the loss control services, the HR services, the law enforcement consultant services. We talked about us being all Vermont, here in Vermont. We work for you. We're a member-owned trust, so we're owned by you. We wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the members, the municipalities in the state.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, gentlemen? No? Okay. Zach?
No.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down tonight.
Thank you for your
For
time.
your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, no, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Vermont League of City.
Careful, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Wade.
No. See you later.
Yep.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to sign the local emergency management plan, municipal adoption. You have something on that, Mike, other than what we have here?
Joe and I spoke today. He had some things he brought to my attention, some wording issues, which were fixed and reflective in this copy. I've highlighted the changes. There are very few, but I appreciate the feedback, and their names are on them. If you want to pass them around. There's one for you, Eliza. Because Eliza is the public information officer. So basically, the push on this one is the FEMA. FEMA came in town with the storm from April 15th, and without the LEMP in place, then we wouldn't be eligible for that program, the reimbursement. It's not something that you haven't seen already, just some changes to it, updates. One of the things on the very back page, number 6-1, I changed the overnight shelter because we have limited availability at the fire station. But the Legion is going to be our shelter. The generator's down there, and Files Brothers is going to be hooking up the propane. It's been marked on the ground now, so they know where to run the lines and not to hit the drainage lines from the Legion. This project's expected to be completed by the end of July, probably sooner, but I just err on the side of caution there and say use the end of July, so we'll have an actual emergency shelter that has backup power, standby generator. I don't really think there's anything besides I added some information, contact information, and some wording that Joe had brought to my attention. So we're just looking for the town to adopt this local emergency management plan. If you do so, I will contact Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Stephanie Burke tomorrow, let her know, and is there a form in that white or
Right
that
here.
blue? Okay.
Right here.
Yep, and sign that, and we'll be moving forward.
Okay, is there a motion?
I would move that we adopt the local emergency management plan as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Just one question, Mike, this is the same one that we're going to, as the Emergency Management Committee, going to review in July?
Yep.
So if and when that changes are made in July,
This is a living, breathing document, so we can modify and change it, but we have to have an adoption of something first, and this is our first cut at it.
so these two are, the one that I had, you gave us the last meeting was dated May 1st, and this one's also dated May 1st.
There,
So I'm
that's,
gonna call it Rev 1?
sure. It has to be dated May 1st, that's all.
Okay.
There's only a signature here for one person or what?
Yeah, for the chair.
For the chair? Okay. Okay, we have a motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
If you feel comfortable, Chairman, everybody could sign around it if they want to.
That'd be fine with me. Whoops.
Sign the wrong place.
Yeah, I know.
Never have enough signatures.
Would you like to sign? Not above where I did, but down here.
With the old one.
You can keep the paper.
Yeah, this is gonna be messy if we do this, but
That's all right. I have the minutes of the meeting too, so.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 2019 grants in application, Coon Hill.
Okay, so I have here the letter of intent to participate in the Municipal Roads Grant in Aid program. I've spoken with the highway foreman, and based upon, and I don't want to just flash this around, and you can't read it anyway, but this right here is the plan that Paul and Susan Schreibman briefed last year. So this Coon Hill project, it's a drainage issue at the end of Coon Hill. It's ledge there, and if you've seen the road, if you've been up by there and seen the road, it's basically pumping water up through there, and it's destroying the road. So this project would allow us to use some grant money to fix that problem, because not this year, but next year was the creek road for paving. And we don't want to pave it if that problem exists. So, and if you look at the very top of this page, well, you can't see it, but Coon Hill was in critical condition. So by doing this, we're actually following the program that we developed for a capital improvement plan. And so it stays in line with it. So it's a good use of the money, I think, before we move into pave it and have problems later.
I assume you're talking about the north end of the road.
Correct. Yep. So I have it here, and then I'm going to slide it over to the chairman. You can see where I've signed it to, but if you guys agree that to use that program this year, we have a match to it, 20% match, which we can do in kind, which we normally do with grants. So our folks do the work, and if that's acceptable to you, if you would make that motion, then and you could sign it.
Is there a motion to participate in the grant and aid program?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Motion second, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is quotes for scarifier and bucket, the highway department. We have 3 proposals, 3 bids.
Yep.
And a recommendation that we accept quote number 1, which is low bid for $3,910. Any comments, Mike?
No, we did apples to apples on this. It was because the first time around, I asked the board to table it till the next meeting so we could straighten this thing out so it was read better. But this is for the grader, and to replace the blades and the carbide bits on it. And that quote 1 is our recommendation.
Okay.
Ready, Mr. Chairman?
Is there a motion, please, on this?
I'll make a motion that we award the contract for the grader scarifier system to wholesale distributors for the sum of $3,910.
Second.
Motion to second, discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is planning commission appointments. We have a long list because of the fact that we did not have, or do not have the staggered terms due to resignations. So it appears as though they all come up for reappointment. Is there a motion on this?
How do we want to do it, one by one or as a list?
Whichever way you gentlemen would like to do it.
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter? Are there any changes here?
I'll do them one at a time.
Do one at a time? Okay, then make a motion.
Okay. I will make a motion to appoint Janet Curry to a 3-year term on the planning commission expiring June 30th, 2022.
Is there a motion, is there a second? Hearing no second, motion fails. Is there another motion?
I would move we appoint Janet Curry to a 1-year term expiring 6/30/2020.
20, right, 20.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's appointment 1 year. Eliza Brun, LeBrun, excuse me.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Eliza Brown to be appointed for a 1-year term as alternate expiring 6/30/2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion, we appoint Joe Bruno to a 2-year term expiring 6/30/2021.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Val Waldron for a 1-year term expiring 6/30/2020.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we appoint John Pintello to a 1-year term expiring 6/30/2020.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion, we appoint Bob Pranzoni for a 2-year term expiring 6/30/2021.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. (2019) Vermont Trans Road and Bridge Standards, adoption and signing. Mike?
This is a change under that new municipal roads general permit, which the town has paid up through, we're fully paid up, let's put it that way. The old standards from 2013 expire on 31 July of 2019. These are the new standards, and in your packet, under, you have that copy?
Which one you want?
The one that, there should be one in your packet has circles on it. I don't
I don't know if there's any circles, I'm looking for the original again.
that's what, should be, have one of
Want
the.
this one?
No, I don't need it, I just wanted to make sure you guys had it, but, so on this page, under section 1, municipal road standards, Those that are hydrologically connected road segments are part of the town's capital improvement plan, which Coon Hill was one of those things. So I circled yes on that. And then under section 2, class 4 road standards, I circled yes. But basically, the only thing I didn't circle yes on was the guardrail standard. And I was advised that there's some changes coming and that most municipalities are not signing that right now until the changes come out. It would hamstring us into doing some things that would be costly that maybe we don't need to do right now with the new standards coming out. So I signed no on that. And I asked Brian Sanderson from VTRANS about the non-hydrologically connected road segments. And he's saying that he recommends that municipalities do sign that. But what this means is these are not something that we're not going to get any money from grants to do this. But if the road were to be destroyed due to a storm, the question would be, is it eligible for FEMA reimbursement? And they're not. So I think I put no on there, Jim. I don't remember exactly on that.
See if you can find that, I'm digging here.
And that goes against Brian Sanderson's advice that I got today.
What specifically are you talking, which?
Right here, this is
Section what?
non-hydrologically connected under section 1 and section 2.
Okay. Those are not circled on this document.
Okay, so talking to the board tonight, Brian Sanderson, recommendation from VTRANS is to sign it. The only thing I'm concerned about is if they're not covered by FEMA and they get destroyed, we're paying for it anyway. If we want to fix that road, we're gonna have to fix it out of our own pocket. See what I'm saying? So it's not gonna get FEMA money. We're gonna fix it one way or another, if the town chooses to keep that road passable. So we do have some roads in town that are not, they're not hydrologically connected. So
What is your recommendation?
my recommendation right now is to sign it and just say no and deal with the roads, because we're not gonna get FEMA money for it anyway. We'd be fixing it no matter if FEMA came in or not. It doesn't tie us to making those roads come up to VTRANS standards at this point.
And there's no downside to saying no to those two questions?
Not if, the upside from Brian is basically, hey, we're bringing all the roads up to the same standards. But if we're saying we're going to do that, then we are obligated to do that, and maybe that's not the choice to use the money that we have for roads at that point. So I think if I think the board, well, I would think that the board would want to fix a road if people live on it, if it got washed out during a storm. So we'd fix it anyway. We're just not going to say we are going to be obligated to bring it up to these new standards.
That's reasonable, I think. Or that sounds reasonable to me.
And we're not the only town that's circling no.
So we need to circle no to these two questions here before we
Correct.
adopt this?
Yep.
Do you
And-
want to do that, Jim, or do you want to do it?
Okay. It's these two right here.
Correct.
Okay, boys, done.
And then there's on page 2, there's a signature page.
Would you like a motion?
Certainly.
I would move that we adopt the June 5th, 2019 Town Road and Bridge Standards.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes.
And just for your own education, this orange book from VTRANS this has all the standards in it for bridges, roads, culverts, all that good stuff. I'm just showing you that the book exists. And we use this book now for anywhere from driveway cuts to width of roads to everything. So we're already using it anyway. That was just a copy for you.
Okay, so these are all together?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You want that, Mike, or you want to go back in here?
I'd like to put it back in there, please.
Okay.
Matter of fact, if you wouldn't, Chairman, if you would put that in there too, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, next item is the transfer station, notice of alleged violation. Mike?
So the town did receive a notice of alleged violation for some illegal burning. And it wasn't that we were doing the illegal burning. A patron came in, dumped some stuff on the pile while it was smoldering away down there, and it happened to be some OSB and stuff that's not supposed to be burned. So it just so happens that's when the inspector was there, came down. And so that was one, and the second one was the glass. We have not been reporting the weight of that commodity, that glass commodity, for the last 2 years. I had Jim O'Gorman over there last Wednesday. That's on track. We'll be working through weighing the stuff before it gets put up back in the pit, because we use it for fill. So we just got to report it. And the second part, the more costly part of this may be, it's not being ground small enough to the standards that's being required. So Jim O'Gorman's helping us with that one to see what can be done to what other people are doing to get this thing ground down. Because it may be just modifying our current glass crusher to be able to do that. But I don't have that answer yet for the size of the glass, but we want to keep using it. But the Gleason Road, they bought a machine that peels the labels off the glass, because to crush it down, if we bring it there, let's put it this way, I'll get to the bottom line. The bottom line is, if we start recycling glass, it's gonna cost us, because they're gonna pass on the cost of that machine and doing it. So crushing it ourselves and bringing it back and using it for fill is the most cost-effective way for us to dispose of it. Buying our own machine would not make sense.
When I read the standard for using the glass as fill, did I read that right, and that we have to remove the labels before we crush it?
That's why they were saying over there that,
We use it as fill.
use it as fill, and we were told right now, so far, that we do not have to remove the labels. We're not selling it to commercial grade stuff that they're using it in. That's why they had to get the paper and stickers off.
So we can still use it under a road or?
That's what I'm being told, and Jim O'Gorman will confirm that with us. He's on vacation, his assistant over there is working on it. Kathy, I think her name is. So that's kind of the glass thing, but if I haven't told you, the commodities that we're recycling are every commodity except for metal right now costs the town money. The processing fee is higher than the commodity fee on everything except for metal. So adding glass into it, we're just digging the hole just a little bit deeper.
Even the cardboard now?
Everything. Plastic was keeping our nose above water, and now we just went underneath. We're sinking. So metal is the only thing that we're making money on.
It's because China stopped buying plastic.
Right.
So, I just wanted to bring it to your attention about the notice. I called the state, Eric Brown, and I asked for an extension till this Friday to get back to him. That gives Rutland County Solid Waste District a chance to answer the questions for me. So I answer the notice of alleged violation. No fines look like they're looming, but if we do it again, so I've spoken to Paul and Chris Forrest about segregating. We're going to chain that area off, and if somebody comes in when they can't be down there to monitor stuff, then they're going to have to come up to the building and say, I need to drop off stuff, because if it happens again, we could lose that burn permit.
Okay, that's for information, Mike, right?
Yes.
For information,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions, other questions for Mike? Not, we'll move on. Manager's update. The ones that are for information, Mike, we can read.
Okay.
You want to refer to the ones that you feel you need action on?
Sure. The first one, under the transfer station. I think everybody's aware that we have a stormwater runoff issue up there, and we've actually applied for a grant. We were awarded the scoping study for that grant to start the process. But in between now and then, this summer, the plan was to do some work on the slope that comes off from the pit and get down below that clay layer and do some drainage. And Hillary Solomon had an engineer come in, and they're drafting something up, and looks like we may get some dollars from her. I can't confirm that at this point. But to start getting that water shed off from undermining the wall, because it's now running out the wall again under heavy rains, and we just put all that money into that pad in the wall, and I don't want to see it fall in. And it's all water that's riding that clay layer down off that pit. And so they've got I think a pretty easy plan to get that done. But what I'm asking is that the board make a motion to encumber any of the operating budget surplus from this last fiscal year for the purpose of facility upgrades associated with ongoing stormwater runoff problems. I don't know what that's going to be yet, if any, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot because of some of the work that was done up there. And the history of it is all the personnel costs that were associated with those fixes, that putting that wall up, were charged against the transfer station, even though it was highway crew doing the work. So it was $23,000 that was put against the transfer station operating budget. That I would argue that we could probably have done something different with it, but there may not be any money left over. But if there is, I'd like to ask the board to encumber it so it just gets added to that pool to fix the water problems.
We can do that without a dollar amount?
What's that?
We can
No,
do that without a
you may not be
dollar
able to encumber it right now, but is to be thinking about this, I guess, when the budget's finally, the books are closed and our auditors gives us the thumbs up and that there's money, that you can encumber it. I mean, I guess you could say, any money left over you can encumber, because I can tell you it's not gonna be a whole lot if there is. We're not talking tens of thousands of dollars here. We're talking maybe a couple thousand.
So we could make a motion to encumber any operating budget surplus and just not put a dollar amount to it. That's legal? Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it has to be for a specific purpose. That's why it
We'll do that, yeah.
has to say for stormwater runoff, or whatever the
You want me
purpose
to
is.
ask my question now?
Sure.
Okay. I wonder if we can legally encumber money after the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. We encumbered money for the historic cemeteries, but we did it prior to the end of the fiscal year. Therefore, I asked Melanie today, I'm probably remiss that I didn't ask sooner, but when I read this, then I asked her. It seems as though the answer, not her answer, but the answer from the auditors, the chief auditor's on vacation and will be back next week, is rather fuzzy. I guess my question is simple. If you don't encumber it by June 30th, can you legally do it? And how long does this extend? Could we in fact encumber money from last year's budget in October, November, January? It seems to me there's a question as to whether it has to be done prior to June 30th. I remember back a while, we encumbered money from the police surplus to buy a cruiser, but we did it prior to July 1. So I would just suggest, and I understand I did ask Melanie again tonight, she was still here, and she said, well, we could probably wait until the next meeting to do that. So until we have a clear definition and as to when that period ends, you know, you say, well, when the audit comes in, well, the audit could come in 2 months, it could come in 4 months, whenever the auditors finish it.
Yep.
So
And
I would just
that's the answer I got,
suggest
Jim,
we
is
do
that until the audit's complete, you really don't know exactly what you have. We have an operating budget and we know that we're in a ballpark. It could be off a little bit here, a little bit there, but not like, we shouldn't be off like, you know, $80,000. Last year, if you look back at your minutes, you encumbered money after the close of the fiscal year for the police department, the fire department, the transfer station, the beach, and everything else, because we had our initial audit back, so we kind of knew that we had money.
Well, that's why I'm.
So the auditor
Did what we did, was it legal? That's my question.
The auditor, when Nathan was here, I talked to him about it, and the auditor said, yes, but you should wait until the books are closed, so you kind of have an idea, if you want to put a dollar number.
Who's the gentleman who's the?
Nathan from
Nathan.
Pace and Holly.
I would suggest we wait to hear from Nathan as to if we can do it and how long
Let me
that
ask one
extends.
question. When did we do it last year? I remember doing it, but I don't remember when.
I don't.
It was after it was, once I knew that there was money in those budget lines, because for Chief Mantello, who wanted those computers, we didn't know where he was gonna end at the end of the close of the fiscal year, so we had to wait until I knew what that was.
Well, forgive my skepticism, but I thought we did it before the end of the fiscal year, but
If we did,
let's
then
find out
that's
for
fine.
sure.
If we
Yeah,
did
that's
it
fine.
before the end of fiscal year, that's fine.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, next item. Mike?
I'm looking. I'm already on page.
Probably that's it, right? Is that it, Mike?
Righto. Okay, so at number 7, transfer station again. This is the proverbial kicking the can down the road. So part of the upgrades for the transfer station, what I'd like to do is construct and design a pole barn cover over the bulky and C&D bins. For the people that don't work there, I guess maybe it won't matter, but for the folks that are dealing with it, when it rains, those bins are full of mattresses or couches or whatever, and it soaks up all that water. And when we go down to the damn facility, we end up paying that water weight at $8 or 8 pounds a gallon, a little over, in water weight. And when it's frozen in the winter, they take it down there, and if they can't dig it out with a backhoe or a excavator, which not every facility does, then we drive all the way down there and bring it back until it can thaw out. So putting that cover over that will stop that from happening, because it's one of those things that pays for itself over the long run, not over the short run.
Can we include that in the budget?
That's what I wondered. Is it in the budget? Is it in the budget?
We didn't put that, I don't know if we put that, I got a copy. Hold on. Time out.
I remember having that discussion.
I got it right here.
I remember defending that item at the town, remember that, Joe? That came up at the town meeting. So, yeah, it's in the budget. We put it in there. I know
Okay,
we did.
well, I got copies of the transfer station budget
I
here.
remember going through that at the town meeting and someone asked that question.
You're gonna ask me to dig
That
through
item
it.
came up.
There was
Okay.
discussion on
Okay.
how to fasten it to the containers too.
Yeah.
Well, there's a concrete pad there, so what we were looking at was to pour the footings and build on top of those just a pole structure, of wood, like a metal roof with something that would keep the rain directly from falling on it. I can't probably say that we're gonna stop the 100-mile-an-hour wind from blowing some in there, but just the normal, God sprinkling it down from the sky, we can stop.
It's fine Scottish weather and raining straight down will be good.
So anyway,
Okay, you wanna come back with that when you determine that if it's in the budget, it's in the budget, no problem.
right. Yep. 7, and then, a contractor to complete construction of engineer design-based water runoff system, using operating budget dollars for anything not covered by a grant. Again, I don't know that maybe it's just for informational only right now, but I don't know what that's gonna come in at for engineering. We have money in stormwater. There's a couple $100,000 in stormwater to get a contractor in there if Hillary Solomon, she's not gonna design the whole project for us. Her engineer's looking at the stormwater that's running out that hill. But then we've got the rest of the property that we have to landscape so that we design or make the water go where we want it to go by putting in drop inlets, some culverts, and getting the water away from the transfer station, down into the ditch, and through their own check dam systems and, gravel and that kind of stuff. But we can't do it, her stuff is not gonna pay, her money's not gonna pay for that. So if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna overhaul this place, then the only way to do it is get an engineer in there to take into account the groundwater, the slope, and where water needs to go to get it out of there. Because it is running into the ditch, and it is full of silt, and that's why Hillary was getting involved with some of the stuff that was coming off there. But her money's not gonna pay for drop inlets and culverts and all that stuff.
Looks like the next action item is number 9.
Well, we weren't quite done with.
Yeah, I don't think we're done with
stormwater
that one.
issues yet.
I'm just taking the chairman's lead here and focusing on the action items.
Well, I guess to hire a contractor is gonna cost me more than $2,000. And that's my threshold for signing. So I really need to, I can't tell you who's gonna do it, I have to put it out for bid. So if you guys are willing to let me go and put it out to bid and get that, then I'll move forward with it.
Sure, no problem putting it out to bid.
All right.
Yeah, the other thing that we still need to think about is that, that drain that runs from Seminary Street.
That's part of that other, that scoping study one, that's part of that.
Okay, because I don't want that to get forgotten, because that's gonna bite us sooner or later. There's the
Okay.
one where the water bubbles out of the ground.
Okay,
I'll tell you the story.
number 8, unresolved stormwater issues. We got Castleton Meadows Lane, we've got Howard's Garage on Muhr Lane, we got Gary Cupfer's place on Main Street, and the Castleton Free Library. I want to solicit bids to get an engineering firm in there to, especially for Castleton Meadows. That is not something I feel comfortable letting the highway foreman or myself try to design. There's too much volume of water there, and we'll end up causing more of a problem than there is now. I'm gonna solicit bids for an engineering firm to come in and look at that and a couple other places, and I'll come back to you with what
I thought you had something possibly from
VHB.
Hillary Solomon, because the water would eventually end up in Bombazine.
For right next door?
Yeah.
No, she's gonna look at it, but there's no, it has to go from there to get into this swamp back here.
Wetland.
Yeah, then it will make its way
Careful.
to Lake Bombazine.
Yes.
So this is an issue that it's been, Dr. Dykle has been patient. He hasn't strangled me yet. After his basement flooded, I thought he was going to, but he's being patient, and I've had conversation with him, and I'm trying to move to resolution.
Jim, can I ask Joe a question?
Sure.
Joe, memory test here. Back when, I think it was Mark Shea was town manager, and we were both on the board, didn't Mark have a study done on Castleton Meadows?
There's been several done
And-
over the years.
And I went through my file cabinet, and I can't find the copy that I know he gave me. So I'm asking you, would you happen to have a copy of that study that was? You doubt it? No, so I doubt I have mine either.
But there was 2 options, as I remember. One was to try to divert that water into the state's storm drain. And the other one was to send it up to this retention pond for a year.
Which means we'd have to go through properties and et cetera, et cetera. But the one that I was told was they wanted to pump it back towards the stormwater drains at Castleton Corners, and the cost was gonna be like over $1 million.
Well, can you look to see what information we have on that?
I've looked through everything I have. And
Oh,
I don't-
you can't find anything?
Yeah, there was,
People's memories say that it happened, but there's no documentation saying it did.
I went through my file cabinet, and I couldn't find anything.
I've had Karen look, we went upstairs.
Okay. Okay, what's the next one?
paving projects. So I'll give you a list of what we're looking at paving this year. I don't know if we need a motion, but we're gonna put out the bids for paving for this summer, for those, Drake Road, Sand Hill Road, Depot Terrace, and Crystal Beach. We encumbered $15,000 from last year, money from Crystal Beach for paving. It's just not adequate to pave it. We have to augment that somewhere. And I'll be coming back to you with the beach, if they have money left over to encumber that. We'll go through this process, and as long as it's legal, I'll ask to encumber it so we can pay for it. We need about another $11,000.
Well, when would you expect to have those figures on money from the beach? Are you talking about June 30th from last year's budget? Right,
We encumbered $15,000 from the previous, not this year.
2018.
We can encumber that again, as long as we say it's for paving. But we can't, without dipping into her reserves. I'm trying to get this done without having to dip into her reserves.
Well, I guess what I'm basically saying too is, I don't think we wanna get caught with a weather problem and have somebody in here paving Crystal Beach in November or something like that.
No. We'd have to wait till after Labor Day weekend. Remember, 22nd of
Yeah.
September is the Castleton days up there.
Oh, they can get it in between.
Well, I was told that they can go into, they routinely go into October anyway. This isn't gonna be Pike going in there and doing this. This is as a smaller outfit.
Okay.
Um,
Alrighty.
So I'll be coming back to you on that number 2 there, but I'm gonna get the bids put out for the paving of that stuff. 10, 11, 12, let's see. Well, number 11, Crystal Haven Common Area. As we know, there's contentious issues, and my recommendation, and I said I'll own it, so I said, I recommend that the town engage with the abutters, including those who have deeded dock space in the town, to see if they'd be willing to form an association and entertain an option to purchase the land. That would be on the tax rolls, and if an agreement signed with covenants included, so that the association could determine the dock space assignments, as well as work with the Agency of Natural Resources to explore what can be done to clean up the inner cove so boats can actually use the dock spaces that are currently choked out, and I spelled that wrong, by weeds. They would also be responsible to maintain it, in which would reduce the operating cost of the town each year. The town has resisted offers from those who have deeded dock space to help pay for the cleanup of the cove and make the $30,000, I think it's 20, I made a mistake there. Each landowner with a deeded dock space gets added to their property assessment each year more equitable. It's been discussed, so it's not like I'm dreaming this stuff up. I heard this from in this room. Somebody had mentioned it before about if they formed their own association and the town sold them the land for $1, and then they turn around and had an assessed value, determine the assessed value, then they would pay taxes on that, but then they would internally be able to run how dock spaces are divvied up, or if they want to go after a grant with the state to clean it up, they would be doing that as an association, not as town.
Is there a motion?
I don't know the motion, I just brought that up.
We'll give you a motion maybe, and then you can move ahead on it.
Right. Well, that's shooting me in the foot, thanks.
A motion to investigate?
Do we need a
Yes,
motion to investigate?
Investigate, you've got to come up with a procedure and some specifics.
Yeah.
And then contact all of the folks who have deeded rights and hold a public meeting and see if they're interested. Okay?
I don't know that we need a motion to investigate though, but,
Well, to investigate proceeding with what he's recommending.
okay.
Okay?
So moved.
So moved. There's a second.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. The last one, 13, the speeding on Route 30 North. I think, Jim, you're aware of this, that our police officers are writing tickets routinely up there in excess of 60 miles per hour through that residential zone. This past weekend, I asked them to do some increased patrols up on East Hubbardton Road, and over the course of the weekend, one of our police officers wrote 18 tickets over the course of those 2 days. some in excess of 60 miles per hour. It had some complaints from residents, so that's why I asked that. But up on Route 30 in particular, I think at one point, I wasn't involved with it, so I'm only hearing piecemeal, but there was some desire to put a crosswalk in or something up there. Joe, do you remember that? Maybe with the planning commission?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was some resistance maybe from VTRANS.
I don't know, as it would be up to VTRANS, that's our road.
No, this is on Route 30.
Or on Route 30 up by the track.
Yeah, yep.
And also down by, yeah, the track, you're right.
And then you got.
It was right after that woman died.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I could explore again, investigate with VTRANS and with the police department because they have the stats. And I don't know if a traffic study is warranted when they can say they wrote, 200 plus tickets up there in the summer last year with these kind of speeds because they have all that information. But I don't know until I ask. But I think that there's maybe some active and passive measures that we can ask for up there to slow people down.
Okay. Joe?
Just one quick suggestion, I brought this up before. Throughout the state now, you'll see signs, speed limit signs with these flashing lights. They tell you your speed. If you're 5 miles over, there's an intense strobe light that comes on until you're within 5 miles of the speed limit. I think that would definitely get people's attention up there, and maybe it's time to ask the state for a little help up there. In light of the tragedies that we have had a couple up there over the last couple of decades.
The other thing that might help, and I'm not sure, and I know we've talked about this before, Joe, as well, is that stretch between the old golf course and the highway that goes up to 50. If we could get the state to consider reducing the speed to 40 or even 45 there, just to get them, because people,
Make it consistent.
you know, when they leave the highway and they head north, they crank it up to 60, 65 going up through there,
It's only like
and they don't slow down.
40 or 50. The rest of it's 40.
Yeah, and
I like that.
That's something that I can work with the police department, because that's how they get stuff done, is they go through public safety, back through and get stuff done that way. So I'll certainly work with them on that as well. But I put that in there about putting in the lights that flash when the motor vehicle approaches, or if there's people in the crosswalk. But
and if
I
they're
talked to
never-
Justin today, and he said that they've been putting a radar card out, and that radar card captures data, and they have a graph that can print it out. And it's almost like people, when there's no one around at 2 o'clock in the morning, let's say, there's speeds on there 115 miles per hour. It's like people are trying to see how fast they can get going. So, but anyway, that we have 2 radar carts, and but I think that the signs, like Joe has said, that's what I put in here. They make those signs, and we just need to work to get it done.
Okay, that it, Mike?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, move on to select board comments. Joe?
I have no.
Zach?
All set.
Dick?
Just a quick question to the town manager. It's my understanding, or correct me if I'm wrong, but sidewalk phase 1, we were not eligible to apply for a grant because we did not get all the easements we need?
That would be correct.
Okay, the other thing, we had, Mrs. Muhr's hearing was today, but we won't know what the resolution of that will be for a while.
Correct. And that didn't affect the sidewalk project. The only easements that affect the sidewalk project right now are Muhammad's, Jill and Kevin Mulholland's place, and Level 7 LLC, which Wenda Bird can represent. So I sent copies of the easements and the new drawings that show the curb, the changes to the access to everybody except for Jill and Kevin. I don't have their email address, so I asked Karen to get that tomorrow and send that to them. And I'm open for whatever questions or meeting they want to have. But until we digest this and there's a public meeting on that, I would highly encourage the board to not move forward with that project. Because if you've seen what's happening around town right now, there's some obstinate or people that are having tantrums, and they're driving through all that work that just got done, tearing it all to hell. And I will pursue it with the police department to write tickets for people that are driving on the sidewalk.
I think at this point, though, isn't it safe to say that the construction season for 2020 is not feasible for phase one at this point? At best,
Negative.
We're looking at 2021?
If we apply for that bike and pedestrian grant to pay for the increase, we wouldn't be able to apply until June of next year. It would be awarded by August. By that time, we will never get it out to bid and done, so we're pushing the project into 2021.
Okay, which gives us plenty of time to get all our ducks in a row and make sure everyone is on board with whatever changes are there,
Yeah.
et cetera. And if we don't go forward with this project, we get to eat like 50,000, I believe it is.
A little over,
Three.
yeah.
Okay, anything else? Move on to the warrants.
I make a motion, we approve warrant number 0709 for $48,646.88. Warrant 0708 for $50,821.33. Warrant 0703 for $5,922.14. Warrant 0628 for $6,165.86. Warrant 0703P for $17,239.13, and warrant number 0627P for $17,737.16.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Make a motion, we approve warrant number 0706 for $22.85. Warrant number 0702P for $665.84, and warrant number 0628P for $665.84.
Second?
I'll recuse myself.
Joe, you want to second that?
Oh, second.
Okay, motion second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Dick recuses himself.
I make a motion, we approve warrant number 0707 for $85.26.
I'll
Second.
recuse myself from
Second.
Second. Oh, second.
Should I call that question?
that one. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recuse myself.
Mohammed released his husband.
He hasn't been fully paid yet.
Oh, no? Oh.
From us he has, but yeah, from that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but once he does, he will.
Oh, okay. I thought that was all resolved and.
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Oh, my God. I think the blood sugar is low.
Just grab a spot to stack these up a little bit.
Oh, my God.
Oops, I shouldn't have signed that.
Cross it off. I
This one.
almost signed that one, Dick.
These are normally Xed out. In red ink, it's hard to. I don't know how the hell I caught it, but I did. Okay. That should be all of them, Joe.
You want to do that?
Yeah, there's no conflict here, I'm good.
Okay.
You ready, Jim?
Yep, ready.
Make a motion that we approve purchase order number 043574, Capital Technical Rescue and Safety for aerial operator course training for $2,040.00.
Second.
This is a reimbursement through PACIF scholarship.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They're reimbursing 100%, correct? Okay. But the limit was 10 for the year.
2,500.
Yeah, that's the 50%.
Right, okay.
That's it,
Okay,
that's the
guess
grant.
we're all set
That's
on
the
those.
scholarship.
Okay.
Boy.
And Skyward?
Okay, any recap,
Mr. Chairman,
items of follow-up? Joe?
I had a question. I was gonna bring it up when you were approving warrants. Have any of you been watching our light bills? Taking a look at our light bills. My question is, are these metering credits that we're buying, is that working out for us? Is that a wash? Because I noticed that the bill this month was $4,600 for our metering credits. And I was looking at our light bills and they have gone down. I don't have the old ones before we were getting the metering credits. The one that stood out the most for me was the sewer plant. It's gone down considerably. But I'm just wondering if that $4,600 we are paying to buy the credits, is that balancing out, if you will, our light bill?
I just ask the question, what was it balancing out?
Yeah, it's because if you look on your warrants,
Yep.
well, first, Green Mountain Powers, so the Royals and Gravel Pit Solar.
Yep.
We purchased $4,607 worth of metering credits. Okay? Now, our light bill, for instance, is $1,200 at the sewer plant. That typically was running around $3,000. I'm just wondering, are we keeping an eye on that and making sure that if we're getting the best bang for our buck on those metering credits? Because it all sounded good when the guy was in here selling
Yeah.
it to us, but now I'm looking at the numbers and I'm just curious, that's all.
I do
Maybe
remember-
something to keep an eye on.
We are looking at every month. I get the bill, and I give it to Melanie, but we've made phone calls to Green Lantern and gone over the bill with them, so we understand what we're saving, because the bill doesn't really show the savings. It's a formula you have to fill in, and we are definitely saving money. But remember, even the sewer plant, it's only 49% or 51%, I can't remember which way it goes, but it's either 49 or 51 is what we can purchase to offset right now, because there was no more net metering credits to be had off that 150 kilowatt array, which the board chose at the time to pay anything that all taxpayers paid against, but not everybody paid against the sewer department because they don't use it, or the sewer, so we only got like half of the net metering credits from the sewer department, against the sewer department that we could have used.
We allocated everything to everything else first, and
Right.
then
Whatever's remaining went to the sewer, so it's like 49 or 51%.
Is there an
It looks like
analysis?
there's a substantial savings, but when you see we paid out $4,600, well, our light bill at the sewer plant wasn't $4,600. Maybe in the springtime when we had a lot of inflow, but
It'll go up and down too.
just a question.
And they laid it out. It looks like everything's, if the sun cooperates, we're looking at like 97, almost $9,800 savings, if it keeps on track. But we know as winter hits, there's gonna be less solar production. But that, when we sat down and mapped it out, it looked like almost $9,800 in savings, which they told us 10,000, so we're pretty damn close.
Okay, anything else? If not, we move on to executive session. Labor relations, ASME contract, motion is in order to go into executive session. I'd like to include Joe Bruno, since he was a negotiator for the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session.